Hello everyone, so I know it's been a little while since I've actually done a video, and let's just say I did not have this particular video planned for today, but after hearing about all of these things, I knew that I had to make a video about this. Now, the first thing I'm going to talk about is Nvidia's new card that they have announced, which is going to be called the Titan Z, and what it is going to be is it's going to be very similar to the GTX 690 in the sense that it has two GPUs on one PCB, both Kepler based, and they're pretty much going to be GTX 780 Ti's, but with a total of 12 gigabytes of GDDR5 memory, which is a lot. It's 2 times more than the Titan had. Now, before we start getting more into it, one thing I really want to know is that because of the fact that they're making this card like this basically proves something that we've been asking for a very long time, at least within, this last generation, and that is for a 6 gigabyte edition of the GTX 780 Ti. Because the 780 Ti outperforms the Titan, but when you do multi-monitor gaming or game on 4K monitors or any high resolutions, that extra VRAM really helps the Titan and actually ends up outperforming the 780 Ti. So people have been asking for is a 6 gigabyte edition of the GTX 780 Ti, which would still be cheaper than the Titan. So they're probably not going to make one simply because they're not going to be making as much money as they would want to, just like with the Titan, and they're going to be doing the same thing with this card, but at least this does prove that, in fact, they can make a 6 gigabyte edition of that card. Now, the price of this card, which is definitely going to be the big thing that blows a lot of people away, is $3,000. Now, no matter how you look at this, the most it should cost is $2,000, whether you consider the fact that since it's on one PCB and it's not two separate cards, it's going to shave some money and save them a little bit, or they're going to have to spend extra money for all that VRAM. No matter how you look at it, whether it's from this perspective or business perspective, consumer, anything, the most it should cost is $2,000, and a reasonable price would be $1,500. But the fact that this is 2 times more than that, if not than $1,000 more than the maximum this should cost, is a really big problem, because this makes PC gaming look really bad. Because when people think about PC gaming, they think it costs a fortune, and you must have thousands, if not then tens of thousands of dollars of disposable money, when in fact you don't. You could be spending half a grand, you could spend well under a grand, or get close to a grand and build a really beefy machine. Or if you really want to get into it and have like really high-end CPUs and a butt ton of RAM or have multiple graphics cards, you could spend between $1,000 and $2,000. But this card alone is $3,000, and it really just blows me away, especially at this time right now within the gaming industry, because we're at a point where we're a couple of years or less away from adapting to a new API, whether it's going to be Mantle or DirectX 12. And regardless of whichever one they go with, we're going to have new hardware that has what it needs to be able to take full advantage of all the features and everything that DirectX 12 or Mantle has to offer. And the fact that they're releasing that card right now doesn't make much sense. Now, if they were working on this game or this card for a lot longer than we actually could have expected, then I can understand that if they've invested so much money and time already into it, that they would want to release it ASAP before we get to that point. And, for all we know, they could be doing this just so then later on they could release a newer version of the card that simply supports DirectX 12 and takes full advantage of it and everything, or Mantle, whatever we go with, or actually both. So, it's just a really bad time, and it's still an insane amount of money. And even for the people that love to go for high-end GPUs are going to look at this and be like, yeah, I'd rather get two 780 Ti's, separately. But then again, since we don't have a 6 gigabyte edition, it's really hard to compete with all that VRAM, so can't do much about that. But, I guess we'll see how things really turn out. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is Disney. Now, I usually don't talk about Disney on this channel, but they recently did something that might affect the way we view, or at least, people create content here on YouTube, because they have bought out Maker Studios for $500 million, which is pretty much $500 million, which is a lot of money. Now, if you don't know who Maker Studios is a really large network here on YouTube that's been around for many years, and some of you actually may be partnered under a sub network that is under Maker Studios, and that's why lots of times when you try to sign up with someone that what you thought was a real network, and then when you get paperwork or a contract or anything like that, you see Maker Studios written on it, you're like, I thought this was the company I was getting partnered with. Why am I getting paperwork from this company? And it's because there's a lot of sub networks under Maker Studios. So the fact that Disney has bought them out makes things really interesting, because it's not completely outside their realm, that's for sure, but it's something that's definitely going to be taking time for them to fully understand, because this is the internet, this isn't cable TV or anything like that. So this could end up bad or good, depending on how you really look at it. And, there's just so many possibilities, because one, in the past a couple times, even though they make great content and they bring a lot of good stuff, there are still a couple of mistakes that were big mistakes, but, didn't take very much to make, that they made that end up affecting them a lot, whether it was a channel that they completely took down that had a lot of content on it that people absolutely loved and were very disappointed to see all gone, and some of that content you may not actually be able to find anywhere, whether it's Netflix, Hulu Plus, any of that stuff. Some of it just may be really, really rare, and it actually ended up shutting down a lot of TV shows, let's just say on Jetix in particular. Some shows were actually going to have some season 2s, and they couldn't go on, without the channel existing, because Disney shut them down or got rid of them. But, at the same time, it could end up making things interesting, because with Disney being there, they could end up doing a lot of interesting things that no network has ever done, or be giving more people opportunities, or, finding things that content creators can find extremely useful to help them create better content here on YouTube. So the possibilities are really quite endless, because this is a big company. And, even though they've made a couple of mistakes in the past, if they just let Maker Studios continue to do what they do, which they probably are, because they're mostly wanting to observe and to try to understand and take in all the information from what's going on, understand the market, and all of that stuff. But if they just do that, at least for the most part, and if they find some interesting things that no network has ever done, and are able to offer something different that will make a lot of content creators really happy, then that can be the next step forward. I mean, it really can, because, with who they are and, how much they can do, it's really quite endless, and I hope it's not just one of those things that's very selective with only big channels or something like that. But I guess we'll have to find out, how that actually ends up. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is Facebook. Now, Facebook definitely has no experience within gaming, even if you consider those things games that they have on their website. But they have bought out Oculus Rift, and they own it now, and they spent $2 billion pretty much. And that's a lot of money. That's really a lot of money, but for them, it's not too much money, because they've already bought out some other companies recently as well. And a lot of them were things that fit quite well with Facebook and what they're trying to do. But Oculus Rift is something that's way outside their realm. And that's what makes a lot of people shake their head and just kind of, really nervous and kind of, really shaken up by this, because this is so outside their realm, it's something that could really, really go bad. There's a lot of possibilities of it just completely going wrong. But for all we know, there could be something that they see. Maybe they're doing something that might actually make it better. And some people are just straight up mad, because this was something that was crowdfunded. And this is something that just got bought out by a big company for $2 billion, which is really, really a lot of money. But this is something, that a lot of gamers are really excited about and really happy to see come to the market. And a lot of people, whether it's developers or consumers, gamers, whatever you want to call them, it's something that a lot of people are very excited for, because, out of all the past things, it's done a couple of things right. But of course, there's always going to be those people a little bit suspicious, like, this is probably going to fail just like blah, blah, blah did a few years ago, And this is something that's done really great so far. And I hope that they at least let them keep on doing what they're doing and at least finish on the gaming side. But, since this is Facebook, there is a small possibility that they're looking to expand what Oculus Rift could be used for. Because it doesn't have to just be gaming. For all we know, they could somehow put it onto their social website, so then you could actually see your friends or something like that from across the world on Facebook, or maybe something else that can make it extremely useful. Because, you know, even if you want it just to be for gaming, if we see this expand to other markets, what this will do is to get more people involved, and more people would be able to adapt to it and become more of a common thing that a lot of people know what it actually is. You know, they're not going to be like, what's Oculus Rift? We're like, oh yeah, that Oculus Rift, man. You know, they're going to know what it is. And with more companies getting into it and, you know, more improvements over time, because they'll be making more than enough money and be able to invest more and get more into it, because of that, they could make things ultimately better for gaming and make companies less afraid to jump on board on this. And for all we know, you know, they could just roll out the red carpet and just put it in the most tightest, most best looking package you could possibly see, and make it so welcoming and just much easier and better overall for developers and other companies just to jump on board on this. You know, and it may just remove that line or barrier that's kind of keeping people from, you know, walking over it or something like that sometimes. Even though there is a lot of people that are really looking forward to it, there's still always going to be those companies and people that are kind of a little bit nervous with it still. So there's a great number of possibilities that it could end up good, but because this is so outside their realm, it's definitely something that will make you want to keep on your guard and watch them closely. And I just hope they at least let them finish on the gaming side of things. If they could just let them finish on the gaming side of things, get it out to market, and allow more people to, you know, jump on board onto it before too long, and then start working on expanding it to other markets afterwards, then I think we'll be really happy overall. Because the worst thing that could happen if they do it that way is more people will be familiar with it, less people will be afraid, it'll expand the possibilities for it, and possibly make it to where we could actually find even more interesting things to add to Oculus Rift for gaming, or more improvements, and just make it better overall. I mean, but, you know, as long as they do things correctly, it can turn out well. But at the same time, because this is so outside the realm, it's really, really hard not to be really nervous about this. And for all of those of you that are mad the fact that it actually got bought out after this thing was crowdfunded, I can see why you're a little bit upset. But anyways, I'm going to end it right here. And sorry for jump cut editing right there. You know, my camera died on me. But, you know, this is something that, with all these things really going on at the same time, it's making it really hard to be able to not be on your guard, or really just not be so, you know, looking into it and just really observing a lot of things, because these are all big things that are happening that could all affect us, you know, minus the Nvidia thing. That is something that definitely is something to worth consider, but, you know, it's not as big of a thing of, like, you know, Disney possibly changing the way, you know, content creators create content, or possibly making things better here on YouTube, or at least for people that partner with them, or possibly, you know, Facebook ruining Oculus Rift or something like that, or expanding the possibilities with it and making it more welcoming and better for people and easier for people to be able to jump on board with it. So yeah, I'm going to pretty much end it right there. So sorry guys, I haven't made a video for a little while, but, you know, I wanted to go ahead and do this video just because these are definitely really big things, and these things aren't the kind of things that you probably want to ignore. So yeah, so thank you all again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.